I'm Chevy, and I'm from Renaissance High School, and we recently started a project in our civics class. I'm here with my teacher, Mary, and my friend, Fiona. Mary, why don't you tell us how we started this project?
Well, in my civics classes, we were thinking about what we wanted to study the next term, and I thought I'd put it to the students. So if you remember, we brainstormed some ideas about topics that are kind of hot topics right now, and the one that emerged as the number one was human trafficking. And then once we got going on it and learned a little bit more about it, we decided collectively, students decided really, that we wanted to focus on sex trafficking. Because as we learned about it, it was much more of a real problem right here. We have this image of like Taken 1, 2, and 3, right? And that's what we think sex trafficking is. And you guys were like, oh man, it's absolutely here. So that's what started this. You guys did.
All right, awesome. Thank you, Mary. Fiona, why don't you tell us how you felt when we started this project and what went through your mind?
At first, I personally didn't really think it was that seriously happening here. I thought it was definitely more foreign. But once we started getting a little bit more in depth, I realized that it is serious and this is something I want to focus on.
Thank you, Fiona. Let's take a look at what Joe and his crew found out what people know about sex trafficking in our local community.
Hello, sir. We're doing a high school civics project, and I was just wondering if you had some time to answer some questions.
I have a few minutes, yes.
Hi, we're working on a high school civics project, and I was just wondering if you had a couple of minutes to respond to some questions.
Sure.
Yes, sure do.
Sure.
Sure.
Just wondering if you had some time to answer some questions.
Sure.
The first question is, what do you know about human sex trafficking?
I know it's horrific. It's bad.
It's basically modern day slavery.
What do you know about human sex trafficking?
I just know it's a pretty rough thing.
Yeah. That's how I'd sum it up. It's pretty rough. What do you know about human sex trafficking?
Not a lot. I've been hearing a lot about it on TV, though, on the news and whatnot, you know.
Over the years, I've heard a lot about it in the news, really, and about young kids and even people brought in to the U.S. from foreign countries.
Where is this happening at?
I really don't know. I just seen it on TV and stuff, so I really don't know. Just in California and Mexico and stuff like that.
It's becoming more prevalent, particularly in southern states. I think of it as being more southern states of the United States.
I know it happens in the U.S. more than most people would like to think about, and obviously other countries as well.
I believe the same thing too.
Oh, I know a lot. I know it's going all over the world, especially in Thailand.
Yeah, that's, well...
In Thailand, it's a big deal.
Yeah,
but it is all over the world.
Well, wow.
Especially in Europe.
You are educated on it.
I am.
Awesome.
I pay attention to that.
Can you tell me where you think this is happening?
Pretty much everywhere, man. I mean, there's not really a designated spot, you know, usually motels and, you know, but hey, you know, some people probably got houses and stuff like that. So, you know, I mean, you really can't just designate a spot because, you know, I mean, hey, it could be in an automobile, you know, so you never know, you know, you just never know.
Seattle's one of the top sex trafficking capitals of the world because of our high population of people immigrating and our port.
Oh, so you already know a lot about the subject. Yep. It happens in the South, it happens in Seattle. Where else would you expect it to be happening?
Probably other big cities.
Yeah, I'd say pretty much across the U.S.
Yeah, that's right, it is. It's everywhere. It's in our backyard. It's on Callow. It's on Warren Avenue. We actually just had a sting operation on a hotel in Kitsap County where they arrested quite a few people. So, yeah, it is happening in California, Mexico, Thailand. It's also happening on Callow, on Warren Avenue. It's in our backyards, and the more awareness we can get out about it, the better it'll be to help put an end to it. Can you tell me what the average age of entry for trafficking victims is? Do you know what the average age of entry for the industry is?
I bet it's young.
I want to
What's your
say
guess?
probably 14 or 15, but
I don't know.
That is.
I heard there's some 10-year-olds in it. I mean, that just makes you. It's just awful.
Do you know the average age of entry for trafficking victims?
I don't. Should I guess?
Take your best guess, sir.
14.
6 to 12. If I had to guess, probably like 10 to 15.
Between 13 and 16.
I would say, from what and I'm a big news person, but I would say from probably about 14.
I would assume in most cases it's young, relatively young, before they even have, much of a mind of their own. They're very impressionable.
I mean, I guess they try to get them younger as possible, that don't know very much about, so that they can get them to, anybody older, would pretty much know, how to, maybe say no. But, when you at the younger age, they're naive and stuff. And
impressionable.
Yeah, stuff like that. So, yeah.
A lot of sex trafficking victims, they're actually forced into the industry. They're the average age of entry into this industry is 9 to 12 years old. So that's third grade, and it's sickening, isn't it?
It is, absolutely.
One of the youngest ones in Kitsap County that I know of is 9 years old. Oh. And that's third grade.
Wow.
So yeah, it's rough. It's really rough. That I know about, it goes to about 9 to 14, and that's for male and female trafficking victims.
I'm a football coach and stuff, so I try to not partake or even be nowhere near around, or hey, I'm turning you in.
We're gonna be airing this on TV. I was just wondering if you guys would be okay with that.
Sure, I think so. Fine. Sure.
All right. Would you guys like an informational flyer on the subject?
I'd like one. Yes.
All right.
Which school are you with?
We're with Renaissance High School.
Oh, okay. Very good.
And that is?
It's just over by the CPS building, the school district office.
Is it a private school?
It's an alternative high school.
Alternative. Very good. Well, thank you.
Well, thank you for taking the time.
Okay.
Good topic.
Thank you, Joe and crew. What is human trafficking? Human trafficking.
Well, generally, human trafficking is when people are being forced into labor, whether it's regular labor or sex labor, through force, fraud, or coercion. It used to be just force, but fraud and coercion, being manipulated somehow into engaging in that labor against his or her will. And sex trafficking has been found in a broad variety of venues within the sex industry. So there's like residential brothels, escort services, fake massage businesses, strip clubs, street prostitution.
Yes, and labor trafficking has been found in very many locations, like domestic work, small businesses, large farms, and factories.
Wow, thank you. What is the demand for labor trafficking?
Well, it includes debt bondage, forced labor, even involuntary child labor. And it's a pretty high demand, because if you can exploit people, you can either get free labor or much reduced. And it's about them working against their will. And Fiona, you know about some of the common forms.
Yes, there's people being forced to work in homes as domestic servants, farm workers that are being forced to do things through violence, threats, lies, and other ways to convince people to force against their will. Men, women, and sometimes citizens, but often foreign nationals, are subject to labor trafficking. California, Texas, and Florida have the highest reporting number of labor trafficking. Additionally, cities with major ports as well.
Yeah, I think it's that threat of immigration violation that really is a key manipulation for foreign nationals.
Awesome, thank you. I appreciate that. Even if we don't see labor trafficking up close as consumers, there are ways we can help, right?
Right. You know, we might not recognize labor trafficking, but when we spend our dollars, if we pay attention to where those goods come from, and get ourselves educated about fair wages and where things come from, then we can make better decisions about spending our money where people are better paid or not exploited.
Yeah, sex traffickers often use things like violence, lies, threats, and debt to get their people to form or go into the sex industry.
All right, let's get specific about sex trafficking.
Okay, so sex trafficking, the force, fraud, or coercion, that's all present just like in labor trafficking, but of course it's specific to sex. And another thing to remember is that if it involves anybody under 18, none of those things even have to be present, because that's straight up sex trafficking as well.
Sex traffickers frequently use their victims. Sex traffickers frequently target their victims through using force, fraud, violence, and threats, debt, and other many ways.
Yeah, and I think one of the statistics we read was that sex trafficking has replaced illegal drugs as the #1 profit maker in the United States. Isn't that something that we came across?
Yes, we did, sadly.
Yeah. Yikes.
Sex trafficking exists within diverse and unique sets of venues and businesses, including fake massage businesses, escort services, brothels, on city streets, truck stops, strip clubs, hostess clubs, hotels, motels, and other places.
Oh, all right. Thank you, ladies. Fiona, you're familiar with some of the signs that tell us the signs of the victims. Tell us about them.
Okay, well, if you are worried that your friend is involved in sex trafficking, there's many signs that you can look for. If your friend has little tattoos on her wrist or behind her neck of either a money sign, a name, like a nickname, like something small like Bear Jr., or a barcode, those are the ways that their pimps mark them. If your friend has inconsistencies of her stories of where she's been and who she was with, that's another way, or another sign I should say. If she works really long hours but won't tell you where she works, or if she has lots of pricey objects but you don't really know what actual job she has, those are huge major signs to look for.
All right, thank you. I didn't know those. You're educating me right now.
Yes.
Now, before we move on, Mary and Fiona, is there anything else we missed or forgot?
Well, actually, I was thinking about something. We were talking about describing what victims might look like, but we might even be jumping the gun, because it's about who are potential victims. You know, a lot of people get themselves sucked in and don't even see it's coming.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, the internet can be a really place to be vulnerable.
Yes, let's take a look at a conversation between two girls about someone who joined a dating website, and the new guy that she's interested in is showing some signs of being not who he may be.
Hey Nicole, come sit by me. What's up? So I was talking to my friend Sarah today, and she told me she decided to sign up for an online dating site.
Yeah, that's cool. Has she been watching out for online predators and looking for red flags?
I'm not sure, but she did mention some guy who's been messaging her lately. She says she's starting to like him a lot, but he refuses to meet her in public.
What? He refuses to meet her in public? Well, that's a red flag right there. You should tell her to report that profile to the police and see if they can get an investigation started. He might be a predator.
Don't you think calling the cops is a little extreme? Can't she just report the profile to the dating site?
Well, I actually had a police officer tell me to report things like that, because it might seem small, but it could be a little piece that, when added to other pieces, helps make a case. It could save someone's life.
Wow, yeah, I'm definitely going to warn her about this. I didn't even think about the fact that there might be online predators. I wonder how often stuff like this happens.
Those were some good insights. So let's shift over to what exactly is the demand for sex trafficking?
Okay, well, I think this is the thing that people need to know, because you think of it as, well, it's kind of a private choice. It's a service. I want to buy it, you want to sell it, and that works out for everyone. I think the stuff that Fiona was describing is what the average consumer of sex doesn't know. They're unaware, or they're ill-informed, or they just don't want to know about those abuses that are the reality sometimes, oftentimes, of commercial sex. And so if sex trafficking is present, there's violence, there's threats, there's controlling behaviors, false promises, lies, and manipulations. And so people who consume commercial sex really need to pat themselves down and know that that's a part of what they're buying into.
Yeah.
Wow. Thank you, Mary. That's powerful. It seems like we need to shift our focus about the crime.
Previously, it was the prostitutes that were the ones that got in trouble, but now we're starting to realize that it's the Johns, the people purchasing it, and the traffickers themselves who are getting in trouble. Law enforcement is coming around and understanding that, yes, prostitutes are engaging in criminal activity, but they're usually forced, and that's the bigger crime here. So the emphasis has shifted to investigating and prosecuting the traffickers themselves, not so much the prostitutes. Here locally, 2 guys have been busted for sex trafficking, and they got a pretty hefty sentence, whereas the girls involved are now supported and safe.
Yeah. In fact, one of them got 46 years and one got 50. That's in Bremerton and Kitsap County.
Yep.
And I remember reading something when we were researching one of those articles where the kind of word on the street in Tacoma was, go to Bremerton and Kitsap County, they don't know anything about it. And it's really encouraging to me to know that our law enforcement, yeah, they do too know something about it. And they're vigorously investigating, and these kind of prosecutions, that's really encouraging.
Wow. I didn't even know about that big bus. That's crazy. Anyways, thank you, you two. Up next, more about techniques of trafficking.
So, Mary, you said you had an experience when you were young that could have ended badly. Would you share that with us?
Yeah. Well, I babysat for this girl named Tony from the time I was about 13, and she was probably like 20 by then. And by the time I was a freshman in high school, I felt pretty comfortable around her and her friends, and I was really fond of her, really sweet, really smart little daughter. And I met Rich at Tony's house. He was the older brother of a classmate of mine, and he had graduated from high school with my sister. We talked a little bit and started to get to know each other, and I really enjoyed that he took me seriously, and it was clear that he thought I was smart, and I liked that. Rich started calling me at home, of course, because this was before the days of cell phones. He must have got my phone number from Tony, and we had long conversations, and we talked about everything. And over time, he asked if we could meet. And I knew my parents wouldn't approve because he was so much older.
Yeah. Weren't you a little concerned about his age?
I just felt so strongly that our age difference didn't matter, not between us. What we had was very special. And we did start meeting on the down low. Our relationship progressed, and Rich said he loved me. I loved him, and I was thrilled that he felt the same way. I was 15.
Oh.
Rich was 27.
God. Looking back, why do you think you fell for him?
Well, I was not a naughty girl by nature. If there's naughty girls by nature, I wasn't naughty. I wasn't raised in a broken home. I didn't come from poverty or all these, I wasn't alcohol or drug dependent or these stereotypes that we have about who are easy marks, And I wasn't stupid, but I was vulnerable. I was 15, and I was an uncertain girl with very little life experience. I didn't know how the world worked, and I had zero romantic experience. So, and my parents had really clear absolute values about right and wrong. There was no gray area. They raised me right. They sent me to church. They modeled decency and good citizenship. But other than that, I was kind of on my own. They kind of figured they'd raised me and were done. So they weren't really paying attention to much else at the time. Yeah.
So why did you decide to share your story?
Well, I just think when we started studying sex trafficking in our classes, I was just thinking, man, was I lucky? Because really, that could have ended very badly, right? And traffickers are, and he wasn't a trafficker, he was inappropriate, and had it gone further, it would have been wrong on so many levels. Mm-hmm. I don't think I was ever in peril of trafficking, but what it made me think of is how vulnerable we are as humans, because we want love and we want attention. And traffickers are just experts at recognizing that. They spot vulnerability of all kinds. They know how to present themselves. They know how to say and do all the right things. Rich said and did all the right things, and how to gain the trust of their victims. And I just really think it could happen to anyone.
Definitely.